Good evening. The Town of Los Gatos Council meeting for September 2nd, 2025 is called to order. We have an echo here in the room. Why don't we take a moment to see if we can resolve that? Are we okay? Okay, great. Thank you. Could we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Isto?
Here.
Councilmember Ennie?
Here.
Councilmember Badami?
Here.
Vice Mayor Moore?
Here.
Mayor Hudas?
Here. Thank you. And now we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. And I would ask Gabriel Oliveira to come up, please. Thank you for agreeing to do this. Let me read a short bio about you. So Gabriel, with the Los Gatos Lions, started a new Leo club at R.J. Fisher Middle School this year. And the school advisor, Jane Babb, selected a student to help us get launched. Gabe sat at the recruiting table with Jane and helped promote Lions and Leos. He was then appointed president, but it was clear that he would have been selected by his peers. And he brought a lot of interest in about 20 kids who regularly attend weekly meetings and participate in the Leo Club. Gabe did a great job managing meetings and recruiting Leos to volunteer with him. And he participated in making toys for animal shelters, landscaping at Oak Meadow Park, and raising funds for the Leo's Ghana project. Outside, Gabe is an altar server at St. Mary's Catholic Church and participates in Kind Hearts for You, a Silicon Valley nonprofit. A comment from one of the people recommending Gabe is that what makes me resonate most with Gabe was his level-headedness and sense of responsibility, while many of his fellow middle school boys showed how immature they can be at times. Gabe was a reasoning voice and a stable influence. He stands out as a role model for youth becoming adults. So thank you, Gabe, and now you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you very much. Please, I argue for everybody to stand up. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much for me being over here and say the Pledge of Allegiance for this court meeting. Thank you.
Great, thank you again, and you can, let's get a round of applause. Come on back this way. We got more council members who want to shake your hand. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, it's always invigorating when we have a member of our young community to lead the pledge. So tonight we have, before we get started with normal consent items and verbal communications, we have two presentations. And my understanding is that the format will allow the council to ask questions of the presenters. But there's not the opportunity for the public because of the format that we have. So first, San Jose Water Company.
Point to, oh.
There you go. Okay. All right. Okay. Great. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, City Manager Constantine. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is John Tang, and I'm with San Jose Water Company. I presented to you before. Happy to have the opportunity to do it again tonight. I was asked to present on certain items tonight, and I think I'm going to get through all of that with my remarks tonight, and certainly be happy to answer any questions that you have. Just a little bit about the company here. We were established in 1866. Next year we'll be celebrating our 160th anniversary. I know it looks like I've been working here for 160 years, but I haven't. I can assure you of that. We are regulated by the California Public Utilities Commission. They are our economic regulator. On the water quality side, we are regulated by the Division of Drinking Water, which is the State Water Board at the state of California. Our service area includes about 138 square miles. We have about 230,000 connections serving about 1 million residents in the greater San Jose metro area. And as you can see on that map there, that is the map of our service area. It reminds me all these decades of a seahorse. That's what I remember it looking like when I was growing up. And you can see Los Gatos is in the green shaded area. Los Gatos has the fortune of being served by our surface water treatment plant, which is up in the Santa Cruz Mountains. So you get what I would characterize as the softest water. Groundwater, which is the purple area that you see there, is roughly about 40% of our service area gets much harder water, and it's something that we typically hear from our customers about. So as far as infrastructure investments go, we invest about probably between $100 to $150 million throughout our service area every year in Santa Clara County. And these are the investments just for Los Gatos. And as you can see, over the last 4 years, and then over the next 3 years, the E stands for estimated and anticipated. We plan to spend a total of over $50 million in there. I summarize these investments in an annual report to you. I provide that to you, I think, somewhere in the first quarter of every year. We started doing that a few years ago. These are some of the items that we are going to invest in the Los Gatos community. The biggest item that you can see there is, or one of the bigger items, a bigger project that we have for us is our AMI deployment, advanced metering infrastructure deployment. One of the questions that I was asked to speak about was how can customers have greater clarity and quicker clarity on their water usage, particularly in the time of drought, as we've seen over the last 2 decades. We've had 3 historic droughts in the last 2 decades. And so AMI is smart. Essentially, it's a smart water meter. It's very similar to what PG&E did over a decade ago. And so we are deploying that now in Los Gatos. We're about 20% done. We hope to have all of our service area done maybe by the end of next year, possibly first quarter of 2027. And this technology is going to allow customers to be able to know pretty much within a day how much water they're using, so that they're not caught off guard. One of the great things about this technology is it allows us to also notify customers when they have a leak. A lot of folks, myself included, and this has actually happened to me, the last thing they do before they go on vacation, get the family in the car and drive or go to the airport, is they use the restroom. And they don't wait until that hissing sound stops. If that hissing sound doesn't stop, that water's running for the entire time that you're out there. This actually happened just recently with a customer of ours, and we said, "Did you go on vacation?" And they said, "Yeah, I did," and this is kind of what happened. And so with this technology, we're going to know within 24 hours that you have continuous usage going, and we'll notify you within 24 hours that that's happening. And when you have that early notification, it doesn't go for the maximum period of 2 months, because right now we only read the meters every other month for our residential customers. So just some industry challenges. These are well-known, well-chronicled across the industry. Replacing infrastructure is obviously a very, very big item across the industry, across the country. We have increasingly stringent water quality standards right now. You might have heard PFAS is kind of the chemical du jour, the forever chemical du jour. It's in everything that we probably have on right now, our clothes, the cookware that we have. It's in everything. Microplastics is actually kind of next on the horizon. And I tell you this not to alarm people or not to alarm customers or even the council. We have a much bigger microscope today than we've ever had. And that microscope is able to see a lot more. Does it mean that it's necessarily dangerous for us? No, it just means that we can see a lot more and there's more science that needs to happen to be able to determine whether or not the things that we're seeing today that we didn't see yesterday are going to be a problem for us. We have wholesale water supply costs that are going up. I know Councilmember Rennie, Councilmember Risto, you are both on the Valley Water Commission, if I'm not mistaken, and so you see firsthand what's going on over there in terms of the wholesale water costs. We have conservation. This is a fixed cost, largely fixed cost business. When sales go down, rates go up. The math is very, very easy to explain, and I think a lot of more people are starting to understand that. And then we have the inflationary environment that we've been dealing with. This chart on the right shows you where a dollar that we collect from our customers go. As you can see there, the biggest portion of our cost is actually going back to Valley Water for the wholesale water supply. I don't say that to disparage any organization. I say that because Valley Water and San Jose Water are inextricably linked at the hips. We don't exist without one another. They are a wholesaler, and we are the retailer. And as you can see, all the other costs are broken down as follows. I was also asked to talk a little bit about water rates and specifically service charges. And so I wanted to show you how that has progressed over the past, it looks like about 7 years or so. So on the left side of the chart shows our service charges. And as you can see, in January of 2018, it was about $27. This is for a typical 3/4 inch residential customer. And it is about $70. On the consumption side, you can see that whenever there is a big jump in the service charge change, there is a corresponding smaller jump or sometimes even a reduction in the volume side, because this is really just about how you collect the money in terms of rate design. And this is something that the Public Utilities Commission obviously weighs in very heavily on, and they want to make sure that everything is fair and equitable. So as you can see on the top two lines there, 498 in 1/1/2018 went to 480 for a unit. You can see how 448 went down to 320. And then down on the bottom, you can see that from 24 to 25, you can see a similar but smaller reduction in the consumption charges. The numbers at the top there are 0 to 3, 4 to 18, 18 plus. Those are the units of water that are sold in those brackets. We have tiered rates. So whereas a uniform rate is a single rate for any amount of water that you use. So if you charge $1 a unit, you can use 100 units, it will cost you $100. With tiered rates, certain volumes are charged a different rate, and then as you go up, the rates get progressively higher, and this is what's called tiered rates at the Public Utilities Commission. So, Councilmember Rennie and Councilmember Risto, I know you've seen this before. This is the bill comparison. This is not my numbers. This is Valley Water's number. They do this every year when they do their rate setting process, and the bars that are black are the 4 retailers that are served by Valley Water. San Jose Water Company is one of them. This is for a 15-unit bill, so 15 units of water across the state. And as you can see there, the highest bill that they have is for Santa Barbara. The second highest is San Carlos, San Francisco, Palo Alto. Again, not disparaging anybody. There is a reason why number 2 through 4 are high, and that's because they're served by the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. They recently completed, I think, a $5 billion infrastructure project to shore up their Hetch Hetchy water supply. You might have heard of that. And so those costs have to be recouped through water rates. One of the questions you're thinking is, well, okay, if San Jose Water's up there, why are Morgan Hill and Gilroy down at the bottom so much lower than Santa Clara or even San Jose Water Company, the four retailers that are served by Valley Water? And the reason for that is actually very simple. South County cities get only groundwater. There's less infrastructure that needs to be maintained by Valley Water. Valley Water has 3 surface water treatment plants up here in the North Valley that provides water to all of us. And so that's really one of the main considerations why. I also will tell you that this graph, I really don't like this graph, because when you put this graph up, it can make it seem like you're trying to make yourself look good. It can make it seem like you're trying to disparage somebody because their rates are higher than you, and that's not what I'm trying to do here. Customers like this graph because their fundamental question is, why is the utility across the street higher or lower than mine, right? And my answer to you is that you cannot draw any conclusions about a utility by looking at this graph. It's like standing in front of 2 homes, 2 identically manicured homes on the outside, and drawing conclusions about how well maintained it is inside. You just cannot do it. You really have to dive into the numbers a little bit. And one of the reasons why is because the cost of water for South County is so much lower than it is for the North County. That's a big reason for the price differential in terms of the water bill. Speaking of affordability, the California Public Utilities Commission actually published 2 reports on affordability. If you would like a copy of that, I'm happy to send it to you. The data is a little dated. I think they use 2020 and 2021's numbers data, if I'm not mistaken. And the 2 metrics that they've honed in on, there's actually 3 of them. The third one's a little bit hard to explain, but the 2 metrics that they've kind of honed in on is hours at minimum wage. So how many hours does a person at minimum wage need to work to be able to afford their essential water bill, which they define as 6 units of water? Where do 6 units come from? 6 units comes from what a family of 4 would need for indoor use only. They consider outdoor use to be discretionary, and so just indoor use is public safety, and so that's what they consider indoor use. So hours at minimum wage is one of them, and for San Jose Water, or I'm sorry, for the industry, they haven't officially published this yet, but their threshold is roughly 20 hours at minimum wage to afford the essential water bill. And then they have the affordability ratio, which is the ratio at the 20th income level, and they've defined that to be a 10% for an essential bill. And so where does San Jose Water stack up there? You can see, I'm sorry, the graph is very, very small because this is about as big as I can make it and have it fit on the screen. You can see there, we're just right, about an inch below San Francisco. We're in kind of the more, I guess, lighter green area. We're roughly somewhere around 4 to 5%. And as you can see, the demarcation, anything greater than 10%, it starts to get red. And, the PUC pays particular attention to that. So San Jose Water is also very concerned about affordability. We have a number of things that we're doing to temper that and address that for our customers. We have tried to leverage as much customer assistance as we can. During the COVID, as you know, there was a shut-off moratorium, and that lasted, I think, for at least 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. And so the state, all utilities were accruing arrearages because, unfortunately, people were paying, whether or not they could afford to pay. So the state actually paid out, set aside, I believe it was $1 billion for water and wastewater, and they set aside another $1 billion for the electric utilities. And we were fortunate enough to receive $16.5 million of that through 2 payments and applied that directly to our customers' bills. There is a federal low-income household water assistance program that we also received about $1.6 million from. And then the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, ERAP, we received another $22,000. So much smaller number, but still meaningful for those who received the benefit. As far as federal funding. We're looking at all ways to really be able, all avenues to be able to really leverage the grants. We were lucky last year to be awarded as part of a group, not just to San Jose Water, but as part of a group, a $50 million battery energy storage system grant. Everything's in limbo right now. I think that's kind of an understatement with what's going on in our nation's capital, but we're certainly hopeful that that's going to come through for us. We are looking at everything we can to minimize the cost of service. One of the ways to do that is actually to maximize the use of the surface water that Los Gatos and other West Valley communities enjoy. The more we can, that water is actually 1/10 of the cost of the water that we pay for Valley Water. So the more that we can maximize that volume, it blunts the 41 cents that I showed you earlier. We want to leverage technology. Certainly AMI is going to help us do that. It's going to help customers better understand their usage and be able to make smarter decisions about their usage. We want to increase trust in tap water. I think people don't understand this. Invariably, at almost every meeting that I attend, one of the questions that comes up is the water safe to drink? And you know, I mean, the answer is unequivocally yes, and I think it has more to do with culture, because many times where these people come from, myself included, the water is not safe to drink, and so they grow up that way, and so they think that when you come to other countries, the situation is the same. When people replace tap water with bottled water that costs 50x, 100x, that is an affordability issue, and that is something that we need to address. And then lastly, we need to support consolidation and creative rate designs. You know, that's something that we're going to work through the Public Utilities Commission to do. There are tens of thousands of water systems in California. There are only 3 large electric utilities serving all of California, most of 99% of California. So are there opportunities there to consolidate and to be more efficient with the scale that we can enjoy? Just looking ahead a little bit, I think everything for the rest of my career is really going to revolve around the affordability issue, and affordability also includes ESG, which is environmental and social justice issues. You know, you can put infrastructure replacement under that, the need to replace that, where it's going to come from, who's going to fund it. You can put emerging contaminants on that. I mentioned PFAS and microplastics. You can put water supply reliability. I don't think there's any question that nobody wants us to be in a continual state of asking people to conserve, or maybe one day saying, hey, look, we're not going to have any more, we're going to tell you that you cannot have lawns. We're going to tell you that you cannot build pools. You cannot, you know, have fountains and stuff like that. And we may get there, but I'm certainly hopeful that we don't get there, that we find solutions that give customers a choice in terms of how judiciously or how economically they want to use the water that is available to them. And then lastly, we continue, and I know we need to do more of this, we have a continual need to engage our customers, inform them. Council member, we had a great conversation at the coffee shop, and I got a lot out of that. I hope you did as well, and you know, those are the kind of conversations that we need to have. I have 1 million residents that we serve, and so it's really job security for me if it's going to be one-on-one conversations. So with that, I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, as I mentioned, the only questions will come from council on this item, but I do have some that have been relayed by residents repeatedly. So, but anyone like to go first? Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just a quick one. So you talked, thank you very much for being here. Very helpful and appreciate it. You talked a little bit about consolidation. I think that's something that's super important. I've, you know, obviously noticed the same, that there's all of these water districts, all of these utilities, you know, serving, you know, the millions of people up and down the state. here in Los Gatos, while not in the town of Los Gatos, we have water districts like the Aldercroft Heights Water District, which I think serves 350 people.
Yeah.
It's tiny. They can't, staff their board. And from my understanding, it's not financially solvent. So, there's not a huge incentive for the Valley Waters to take that over. How are you all thinking about, ensuring that, it's not the people in Aldercroft Heights fault that there was a water district set up for them, years and years ago. How are you thinking about ensuring that those people get the water that they need at the rates they deserve?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor. I think first and foremost, look, we're a utility and we're a utility peer. And so when a utility needs help, we're going to do what we can to help them. If I'm not mistaken, we have an intertie with Aldercroft Heights and Chemaquita Park and those neighboring water systems to help them out when if they need some help. Obviously, we can only help if we have the water. If we don't have the water ourselves, that's a little bit of a challenge. I think the question. So from time to time, we actually will absorb these. Many of them are mutual water systems. Aldercroft Heights is kind of a mutual water system, even though they call themselves a water district. We'll absorb them into. They'll come to us and say, "Hey, we really don't have the technical, managerial, or financial means to be able to operate this from a going concern standpoint." So they'll come to us and say, "Hey, please help us and take us over." And so we will entertain that from time to time. We do that with many systems that are right next to it. Though I think the last one we did was Sierra Road Improvement Association up in the North Foothills. So we will continue to do that. We just want to make sure that we can do that in a way that's equitable and fair to our current customers, because as you can imagine, unfortunately, some of these systems are not in the greatest shape, and actually there are state programs that will help them get out of that shape into a better shape before they can be consolidated with other people.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, I had a few questions. So I may be the only resident in town who cannot tell how much water they're using. My meter is located in an inaccessible spot on a neighboring property, and I was informed that this meter was not working at all for 2 years. I requested that San Jose Water move the meter a few feet onto my property, but San Jose Water refused. They said it could be moved, but I would have to pay the entire cost of moving it from the street to my home. At the same time, there was a substantial shift from meter usage to service usage. So despite the fact that my meter wasn't working, my bills were pretty consistent. And when I was informed that the meter was working again, I owed thousands of dollars. How many others are in the same situation where they are charged but cannot view their meters?
I am not aware. If we want to apply your particular case to it, I'm not aware of other cases that are like this. They haven't been brought to my attention.
So you're saying that meters are on everyone's individual property. There's not the situation that I had where the meter is not on your property.
Typically the meter is outside in the front yard where there's access and ingress and egress for us to be able to access it. I think we had talked about this before, Mayor. I think in your particular situation, the meter placement predated your purchase of the home,
Sure.
if I'm not mistaken. And so it was put there for a very good reason back many decades ago. And I'm glad to revisit this with you separately if you would like.
Well, my request was to move the meter. But what it highlighted is this shift from usage to service fees. So to what degree has San Jose Water shifted its revenue from usage fees to fixed service fees. According to your chart that you showed us, service fees are doubling every 5 years, 2019 to 2024, 2020, 2018 to 2023. What's the current split? And aren't fixed service fees a disincentive to conservation, which we all will have to do as the climate changes?
Yeah, so the fixed service charge, the split between fixed and volumetric service charge, which I think you call the consumption or user fee, is really a rate-making construct. The PUC has long favored more on the volume side and less on the fixed side because it can send a stronger conservation message. Obviously, the more you use, whether you have tiered rates or uniform rates, the more you're going to pay. The challenge with that, as the PUC found out, was that when you have times of conservation, the volume that you're moving, the volume of fixed costs that you're moving over to the volume charge are not being recovered by the utility. Okay, and that was a problem. Revenue stability was a problem for the utility. And so what the PUC did back, I think it was either 2018, 2016, I'm blanking out on the exact year, was they said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to set fixed cost recovery at 40%. And I'm going to get a little wonky here, so excuse me for this. We're going to set fixed cost recovery at 40% of the total cost of service, and we're going to set that's the floor, and then we're going to set the ceiling at 50%. So whatever your total cost of service is, you can recover a minimum of 40% in the service charge and up to a maximum of 50%. We were at about 35%. We went up to 40, and we're now up at around, I believe, around 47%. And so that's why you're seeing the incrementally higher service charges. We are still not collecting 100% of our fixed charges in the service charge. Okay, I've been doing this a long time, and my opinion, not the company's opinion, or certainly not the PUC's opinion, my opinion is that everybody should be paying their fair share of freight in terms of fixed costs. Okay, because every volume of water that you don't buy, that you don't use, and that we don't buy to serve you is a shared savings between the customer and the utility. So it's really hard to get into, I think, here on the dais, but I'm happy to have a one-on-one with you and further dive into the weeds on that.
Well, I just think the public should know that as San Jose Water is shifting from usage to service, that it's a disincentive to conservation. And while the PUC may allow things in a range, the requests come from San Jose Water, correct?
They do come from us, and their charge is actually to balance. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Their charge is actually to balance safe and reliable infrastructure, which is the recovery of the fixed cost component, with just and reasonable rates. And that is the fulcrum that they're trying to balance every rate case that we go into.
Okay, I had another question about the fixed service fees. This is something that's been brought to our attention at almost every council meeting, and that is they're based on pipe size. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So can residents request a change in pipe size if they do not need that much supply?
So the pipe sizing was determined at the time of the initial construction of the home. We do have a process for going through that analysis. If somebody were to come to us and say, hey, I would like you to look at this and see if it still requires the same size that we do, that we have today. I think a common maybe misapplication is that, well, I've had 4 kids who've gone off to college or moved out of the house. I'm using, 10 times less water now, 5 times less water now than I did before. The flow or the usage should determine my meter size, and that's actually not correct. There's actually plumbing codes, American Water Works Association codes that govern how those how the services are sized. And again, I'd be happy to go through that one-on-one with you.
In particular, there's a resident who says that they have requested a change in their pipe size because they use very little water.
Right.
And so you're saying there is a process for that, or there's no process for that?
There's not it has to be a change of not consumption in. For example, if you have a 10,000 square foot home that has multiple bathrooms and stuff like that, fixtures, that all gets calculated into this model that spits out a meter size. What they do, and again, I'm not the expert on this, but certainly I can put you in touch with somebody. What they do is they determine the maximum flow through each of those fixtures all at the same time, because that's the worst case scenario that could happen. It's not about, well, I'm using a lot less water now. It's about the capacity of the flow through those fixtures.
So I may be interested in that one-on-one, but
Okay.
in particular with that resident's situation in mind.
That's
The other thing you mentioned, you talked about San Jose Water, but actually the company that we knew at San Jose Water had become SJW Group with major operations in Texas, I think, and Connecticut. And now it's not called that either. It's called H2O America. Is that correct?
That is correct. So our parent company was SJW Group. For a long time, it was just San Jose Water Company that was under SJW Group. We expanded, SJW Group, our parent company, expanded with the acquisition of Texas Water Company back in 2008. Back in 2017, I believe, we further expanded our operations to include 2 water companies, one in Maine and one in Connecticut. We recently just rebranded our parent company from SJW Group to H2O America to better reflect the changes that we've gone through.
Okay, so it would be appreciated if you could share that when you talk about the company, because the company is different. I expect that a large percentage of the management team and board of directors of H2O America don't drink the water that we drink. Is that probably accurate?
That is accurate. The local folks, myself included, remain the same, but that is accurate. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thanks. Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. I do appreciate the presentation, and I think, when I talk to constituents, one of the things that's difficult with any utility, it's the same thing with electrical, is the infrastructure and paying for the infrastructure. And as we have to replace aging infrastructure across the board, that does increase the fixed cost. And I think that's a challenge for people when they cut back their water usage and their bill is still high. But understanding that, we don't want to be Flint, Michigan. We want to make sure that our infrastructure is kept up to date and the water is safe, I think is critical. I also appreciate the point that you brought up, because we discussed this a lot at the Valley Water Board, is the fact that people will actually buy bottled water for drinking water, when in fact bottled water could be somebody else's tap water. You don't know where it came from. You don't know when or if it was tested.
Yeah.
And our tap water is tested at least, I don't know how many times a day, and it's a steal at about 1/50th to 1/100th of the price. And tap water, not even filtered. Right. But I think, getting that message out, because when we've got people buying bottled water, which is insanely huge carbon footprint, the shipping, the whole thing, when we've got tap water. One of the things that I think is hard for me to understand, and I don't think we'll get to that infrastructure in established areas like Los Gatos, is why our super high quality drinking water is also what we flush down the toilet, what we wash our clothes with, and and so that is, I think in an established area it's hard to separate out and have purple pipe. Why are we watering our plants with the same water that has to be perfect for drinking. And I don't know. I mean, is there any vision toward the future of how to bifurcate the high-quality water from what would be good enough? Or does that happen as a residential level if people are using gray water? Or is that going to happen with new construction in areas where there's new infrastructure?
I'm a civil engineer, recovering civil engineer, so please take that for what it's worth. I think a bifurcated system where you have raw water, for example, feeding, your plants and other things, and then you have potable water feeding, your kitchen and sinks. I think it would be prohibitively expensive, to be honest with you. I think there are probably cheaper solutions. We're already going that way, right? We already have a recycled water system in place right now, but it's really more for big commercial, industrial, landscape irrigation areas. And so that trunk line that is being built by San Jose Water and other organizations is really just down main drags, like where golf courses may be, where large industrial parks may be. I think where you're starting to see some of these changes take place is in the ordinance related to ornamental landscaping. I think one day you're probably going to see a flat-out ban on ornamental landscaping. I think you're already starting to see that now with the medians, in particular in certain jurisdictions. Our pools far behind. I think the ones that are existing are probably going to be grandfathered in, but I don't know that you're going to be able to build a new pool. In some communities, again, I don't think we're there yet. These are the things that have been talked about in the past when we faced the historic drought, when we had water budgets. And I remember being in this very room, about 10 years ago when Laurel was still here at a very, very heated public meeting about that. And so, I think, look, you can constrain demand, which is what we've kind of been doing during the droughts, telling people to use less, or you can go out and find new water supplies. Both are going to be expensive. There's no getting around that.
Okay, thank you. And then I think encouragement of gray water.
Yes. Gray water is also
On an individual basis?
Yes. Gray water is also very, very good. What I would say about gray water is that I think there are certain plumbing codes that might have to be followed so that you don't mess things up inside, particularly like if you're going to plumb your washer to go out to the gray water tank and things like that. So, please be very careful with that. But I really appreciate your comments on bottled water in particular. I'm not advocating that, well, I guess I am advocating that people drink tap water over bottled water. But what I would say is that for those who want to buy bottled water, there are really two types of bottled water. There's actually, most bottled water is actually tap water that these companies filter. Dasani, Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, they actually filter tap water, add some minerals in it, make it taste good, and sell it to you for, 100x. And then there's the spring water. That is actually real, in my opinion, real bottled water that comes from the source that has no treatment attached to it. And so, but that costs a lot of money as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for coming before us.
Thank you. And I'll follow up with you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hey. So next item, we didn't take any comment on that because it's a presentation. And so the next item is a presentation by the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District. Thank you, Mr. Gleason, for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hudis and council members. I think our last update was probably in 2023. So I will try and keep it fairly quick and stick to mostly highlights and just a few review items. Whoops. All right. As you know, MidPenn's mission boils down roughly to the words we see on the right here: preserve, protect, restore. educate and enjoy. So we're protecting the greenbelt of land up and down the peninsula, and we're providing access to people to enjoy that land. We currently have about 72,000 acres under management, and that extends all the way from up near Half Moon Bay in the north down to the edge of Santa Cruz County in the south. I'm the director for Ward 1, which is the southern area, and it includes 6 open space preserves. We have 27 total open space preserves, and 25 of those are open to the public. And Ward 1 includes the areas of Los Gatos, Monte Sereno, Saratoga, and parts of Cupertino, as well as all that land down past Mount Amanum and Loma Prieta. I'll go through some new pictures to try and entice you out to our preserves right in this area. So this past October, we opened up a new part of the trail system at Bear Creek Redwoods. It's the lower part of the preserve, and I really encourage people to get out there. It's very beautiful. It takes you through a whole variety of ecosystems and presents a lot of different views of the open spaces around it that surround the town. Also gives you views down to Lexington Reservoir and down the valley towards Los Gatos and Silicon Valley. El Sereno is the open space that sits up above the west side of town. And I know Councilmember Aristo is very, very familiar with this. Recently, if you've been up there, you might have seen a lot of fire resiliency work. And that's actually had the added benefit of opening up some of the chaparral and exposing new views. I'm very eager to see it in the spring when things start growing back in a little bit. Now, unfortunately, that preserve is going to be closed for the next month as we're doing some erosion control work, replacing a major culvert. Sierra Azul is our largest preserve at 19,000 acres. And even now, we're continuing to expand it. We had a set of recent acquisitions that filled in some key spots. One thing that's going to be there in the future is a path, a trail, publicly open trail that goes all the way from Los Gatos to Aptos. That's known as the Mount Amanum to the Sea Trail. So that's something to look forward to. And St. Joseph's Hill, I think many people know this very well. It's our most local open space. You can access it right from Jones Road in town. Very, very popular. It's actually our second most visited open space preserve, despite being relatively small and compact. I'll go through some project updates now. So one of the things that MidPen does a lot of is preservation of natural resources and restoration and protection of habitat. And this particular snake is the San Francisco garter snake, which is an endangered species. And MidPen is doing a lot of work with partners to protect and restore its habitat. Another species that we actually have locally up in Sierra Azul is the Santa Cruz kangaroo rat. And that was discovered relatively recently. And that's another species where we're working on protection of habitat. So I know the council and of course many others have set fire resiliency as a top priority. And the town also, through my work on the Parks and Sustainability Commission, I know the town has a very extensive vegetation management project underway. MidPen has a very extensive wildland fire resiliency program that's managed in partnership with CAL FIRE, with local municipalities, with local fire agencies, state and county parks, and other partners to make sure that we take on this challenge really on scale across large swaths of land and not just in individual pieces that are managed by different organizations or municipalities. As part of that, we have the Los Gatos Creek Watershed Collaborative, and this is a partnership between MidPen County Parks, San Jose Water, and the Fire Safe Council. And again, the idea is to really treat this area holistically as one unit rather than in these separate pieces. The first phase of this project is mostly concentrated on vegetation management and cleared about 1,000, or treated about 1,000 acres. That was completed in this March. And then in May, we started the second phase of this program on a similar scale. That second phase includes some of that work that you may have seen up in El Sereno. And over time, you'll see more and more focus on prescribed fire as a component of the fire resiliency program. So Mid-Penn last October conducted a 9-acre prescribed burn over in Cherry Springs, which is an area in Sierra Azul. We're planning a larger, significantly larger burn in that area this year. And that particular area it's normally a closed area, but there are actually pretty frequent docent-led visits that would take you to that area where the prescribed fire or the prescribed burn was done. So you are able to see that if you're interested. Another big set of projects in this area under our Measure AA, which is a bond that was issued in 2014, or bond measure that was passed in 2014, are the Highway 17 Crossings project. And this includes a major wildlife crossing to help wildlife pass between the Santa Cruz Mountains and the Diablo Range, particularly focused on mountain lions. It addresses a particular hotspot for wildlife mortality and mountain lion mortality on Highway 17. That crossing will be just below the dam at Lexington. And then this set of projects also includes a number of trail projects, the largest of which is connecting the Bay Area Ridge Trail across from Sierra Azul to El Sereno and then on to Sanborn Park. And that will also, of course, connect to the Los Gatos Creek Trail. One thing you can use a Mid-Penn resource is the events calendar. So we have a very wide variety of docent-led and also volunteer events. We just started up a trail work volunteer program, which is particularly interesting to me. I've joined a number of those events. And you can visit our events page and search it for different types of events or events in different places according to your interests. And then finally, I just wanted to talk a little bit about our rodenticide outreach. We see more and more reports of sick wildlife, and we have predators like coyotes and bobcats and foxes that will come down close to the towns or into the towns, and they feed on small animals, which may have been poisoned with rodenticide. So our staff is really trying to step up the communication and outreach to local municipalities that are close to the preserves to make sure that people know about this issue and to encourage non-rodenticide methods of controlling rodent populations. All right, thanks very much. I would be happy to take any questions you have. Also, you can sign up for our e-newsletter, and you can always send us questions at the info@openspace.org.
Great, thank you. Are there questions from council members? Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. So many things, but I think the one that caught my attention at the end is the rodenticide outreach. Is there anything Mid-Penn is doing, for example, to talk to our local hardware stores, which may or may not sell those type of poisons? At least, I don't know if we can restrict it, but they can educate any members of the public to what the risks are to our apex predators?
That's actually a great question. I don't know the answer to that, but I can take that back to the folks who are reaching out. What I know is that I think a lot of this outreach has been, we have newsletters, or we have email lists that people who are local to the preserves can sign up for. So there are certain emails that will get pushed out to local people in those areas. And then there's also been a lot of tabling at some of the preserves, particularly Rancho San Antonio, some of the other ones that are close to towns. But I think your question about hardware stores is interesting. I'll follow up on that.
Right, because it would be great if a sale is made that at least a warning goes out. I mean, I know people whose dogs have been poisoned that way, but, you know, people might think they're being careful, but then the dead rat is eaten by, or the dying rat is eaten by something else, et cetera. Thanks.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Had two specific questions about two of the trails you mentioned. Just wanted to see if you could provide a little bit more detail on the plans for the Mount Umunum to the Sea trail, number one, and then really curious about the connecting the Bay Area Ridge Trail between El Sereno, St. Joe's, and Sierra Azul. I'm curious how you're thinking about the large highway in the way and what the plan is there.
Okay, so Mount Umunum to the Sea is part of one of the Measure AA project portfolios, and currently it's not in our 3-year planning window, so we don't have active work going on that. But the general idea there is that there is a road on the ridge that goes between Mount Umunum and Mount Loma Prieta, and then that's connected on the other side by an old fire road that goes down to the edge of Soquel Demonstration State Forest. So the general idea is to open up that route, which might be a lot of the road, and then there may be certain parts of it that will be replaced with trails that we build for that purpose. So does that answer your Mount Umunum?
Yeah,
question?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's not in the plan yet, but getting there.
Yeah, it's currently one thing that MidPen is working on is we have about 20 years, a little less than 20 years of Measure AA left, and maybe 60% or so of it to complete. So we're working on a 20-year projection of how these projects act out in time. Previously, MidPen has been doing this on more of a 5-year rolling basis. So I think when we get that, there's a little bit of information that's actually been shown in some of the public meetings, sort of pulling together what are all these different projects. But I think within the next couple of years, we'll have a better idea of how it plays out over time.
Got it. That's exciting. Sounds like a good idea.
So then on the Bay Area Ridge Trail connection, the general idea is to build a highway overcrossing for the trail, so a pedestrian overcrossing that can carry hikers and bikes and equestrians. And that would be built just a little bit below where the wildlife crossing will be. So if you know the Los Gatos Creek Trail, as it goes up towards the dam, there's a point where you climb this particularly steep, sort of gravelly hill. Just to the right, there's a turnout from the highway. That's just about where the trail overcrossing will be. And then we purchased the property on the other side of the highway there, and the trail will snake its way up and join the trails that are currently in El Sereno off of the Serenity Trail there.
Oh, that's very exciting. And is that one in the 3-year plan or not yet?
So that whole project is in very active planning and design right now. And we hope to possibly be proceeding to construction someplace in the 27-28 timeframe, but it's a really complex project. There are many moving parts and many agencies involved. You know, there's land from many different agencies and jurisdictions there. So it is a pretty complex thing.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. That's keep us in the loop on that, because that would be obviously transformative for open space and recreation for people in Los Gatos. So
we do have a web page for the Highway 17 projects, and that actually has quite a bit more information. It has the conceptual alignments of these trails as well.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. I'll check that out.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, I just want to thank you for coming and giving us an update. Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space is a real treasure. It is the backyard of the town of Los Gatos. It's literally my backyard as well, and we're very fortunate to have such a resource here for people to use that is preserved. It's not only a concept, but it has been sustained for a long period of time with a lot of future plans. So thank you for coming, and we'll ask you to come back in a little bit.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So with that, we are ready to move on to our regular agenda. And so the next item are the consent items 1 through 7. And I will get public comment in 1 second. Are there any comments or questions by the council on the consent items? I had one, and that is about item number 3. I understand this is some fees for landscaping related to North 40 Phase 1. And my question is, it seems like this is an unfunded fee that the town needs to pick up now that the development is done. When we were looking at developments, North 40 and others, we were told that the developers would pay for any improvements, and that or the new property owners through some mechanism. So my question is, are there ways that developers can cover these kinds of costs of development? And if these fees are not covered, are we considering them when we look at the fiscal impact of all the development that we have?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Larger question, the answer is there are options to garner operating costs for certain improvements. There are assessment district, lighting and landscape districts. Those are elements that have to be in place and agreed upon by the developers. And that's kind of a normal practice in certain jurisdictions. You can look at cities like the city of Roseville, that new development subdivisions are approved only if they have assessment districts that include the maintenance costs of streets and other public improvements. However, in the context of SB 330 or Builder's Remedy, it may be a little more challenging, and I'm not a lawyer to understand the laws and what you can and cannot require of a developer in terms of the financial obligations ongoing of that development from that. But that might be a question we may need to research.
Okay, thank you. I'm not going to pull item 3, but it does serve as a reminder that we have to look carefully for any unfunded costs that come along with development in the future, because this is clearly one. It's not a lot of money, I think maybe $30,000 over the next 10 years or so, but it's still, we should be looking at this. So thank you. Okay, I'm going to go to public comment. So I have one card from Abby Normal, number on items 1 and 5.
I just want to start off with Labor Day, a long Labor Day weekend, and for all the women out there, you know, it's hot and sweaty and stuff like that. So, happy birthday! I'm Abby Normal. So, just a little bit of humor. Okay, just another thing is a thanks for the $100,000 grant for last week. But what I'm trying to do is maybe pull one, because on the comment that I said, comments are I don't have my things, but various concerns. It's on page 2. You know, I talked about the easement, children's lives matter, hiring practices, water bills, Project 2025, all that should have been listed. And then the other one that's really important that I think was to you, Mayor, you for the $20,000 what was it? $20,000 rental assistance. You I think abused your authority and office because you didn't ask council. You asked Director Baker to split that up, and I think that should have been discussed how it was split up between because he's splitting it up. Now it's, you delegated $20,000 for Baker to just split it up when the council should be splitting it up. And what I'm trying to think of is, because Baker said, a woman came in and stuff like that, but anti-racial coalition only can give out like 500, 3 to 500. And the other one, Vincent DePaul, gives out, it's a larger, it's a community thing or county thing, and it gives out a lot more. But it should have been you guys deciding instead of Baker deciding. And I think that should be talked about, because you're kind of abusing that authority by having council do that. I mean, staff do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So on consent items,
Yeah.
I am generally supportive of pulling items that have a specific question about them for discussion. You noted items 1 and 5 in your comments.
5.
Is there a specific question on 1, which is, let me just finish. 1, which is the minutes, approving the minutes of the council meeting, and 5, which is authorizing the town manager to execute an amendment for a contract for legal services. Do you have specific questions about either of those?
Yes. Should you authorize staff to delegate $20,000, or should it be to the council? And then on legal counsel, should it be better to have, because it's getting a bigger, you have a bigger budget, should it be better to hire attorneys or staff that look into it and then keep on, because it seems like we're wasting money hiring a bunch of attorneys. So
thank you.
Should
you answered my question.
Those are the two.
And so thank you. I don't have any other public comment on the consent. Do we have anyone online who wishes to speak on consent?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, so I'll close public comment. I did not see a specific question that would cause me to pull one of the items, so I'm okay without any pulling any items. But if any council members would like to, or any further comments, okay, then we're considering items 1 through 7. Vice Mayor?
I move to approve items 1 through 7.
Councilmember Bristow?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes unanimously. Okay, we now move to verbal communications. And so I have a couple of cards on verbal. The first one is Ed Lucy, and then Gus Hu.
I want to thank Mr. Mayor and the council to have this issue brought forward. I'm sure it's not a personal issue. It's covers a lot of the town folk and also other people. I recently had my fire insurance canceled on my property, on my personal property. And that's at 15080 Blossom Hill Road near Union, up on the uphill side. It's an extreme fire danger area. It's been declared, and so here's my insurance being canceled. And to mitigate that, I did everything I could. I permitted 2 large evergreens I had to take down, trimmed 5 feet of the brush and limbs away from the house, screened the underside of my deck and to the ground, and I presented all of that with my photographs and documentation and costs and everything to the insurance company. I spent over $10,000 doing this sort of thing. Then I received from the town, because I'd cut down these 2 evergreens that were near the house, the request that I plant 4 new trees on the property. The property is surrounded by oak trees and eucalyptus, and I've corresponded with the town, and I've asked the arborist to come out and take a look at it and see and I never heard back. So I have some documentation that I've done with the town, back and forth emails and that sort of thing. What I'm asking tonight is that, bottom line is, the town requests that I follow the ordinance that covers this sort of thing, and the money is due, $1,000, $250 a tree. What I'm asking is, if there's some, I'm not the only one that has this problem, I'm sure. What I'm asking is if there's some way to amend the ordinance to allow for some kind of allowance for putting people in a box, and with the insurance company on one side and the town on the other side requesting funds for something that I can't plant 4 trees on my property. And I'm not going to pay for having them planted somewhere else. It doesn't make any sense. I'm stuck in a bad place. Anyway, so I just want to present it, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. You may have heard this already from someone else, but
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any resolution that I can reach tonight, but anyhow.
Thank you. Since this is just verbal communications, it's not a matter that we can consider tonight, but we can certainly take your ideas and suggestions and discuss it. And in fact, there have been some discussions about revising our tree ordinance for fire resiliency, as well as some of our building codes as well. So thank you for coming forward with your comments.
That's really what I'm asking, is some kind of consideration. And, in the meantime, I've got an invoice for the town for $1,000. Anyway.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Badami.
Thank you for speaking up. So did your insurance carrier rescind the cancellation notice based upon the mitigation measures that you took?
They did, but they doubled my premium, which I'm more than happy to pay. It was either that or go into the California Fair Plan, which is off the chart, and they don't really cover much.
Understood.
Anyway, well, thank you very much for your consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have another card. Gus who?
Hi again. Same thing. Oops. I was put up this. Is the $100,000 grant that you gave me? Thanks, Council. I did invest it. So, I got you some. Well, actually, I stole it because it says cookie jar over there. I think you guys got it from over there, the drawer over there, and it's one of those things that a thief does. Same thing, easement, Lynn Avenue, Children's Lives Matter. I talked to the high school Cat in the Hat principal the other day and told them, I brought him the minutes, and I had a minute with them, and just hopefully he'll reach out to you. Hiring practices, emergency manager, water bills. That water bill issue, the drinking, it comes from groundwater. That's why it's so clean. And we do have the water towers on Los Gatos thing, so it should come to us first. It's like, and my issue, my brother's a better speaker on that, and we should get together and either FaceTime him and stuff like that privately. But I've been doing this for a couple of years now. He's actually has, and I'm just saying, okay, I'll file a lawsuit against him. Project 2025, Civil War, what's going on, that could have all, a lot of stuff. I do, send in things, and this is all fake. Yeah, I send in stuff, but this is all this fake picture, and I'm not. I brought it up to council and previously, and told last mayor when she was leaving, and she told me to hand it over to things, and I can NEMU. I want to try to rent NEMU out. They won't let me do it. The museum to bring up some of this because it's hard to talk, and I'd rather do this in private because a lot of this could be easily, it was all fake. Let's see, Project 2026, next year's coming up, and anything else. Maybe you should some Butterfingers. I like Butterfingers actually. They're easier to steal. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone online for verbal?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay. We'll close verbal communications and move on to item number 8.
Thank you. I'm Gabrielle Whelan, Town Attorney, and I'll be presenting this item. Captain Clinton Tada and Jackie Rose of the Police Department are here as well to answer practical questions regarding the town's alarm program. I've prepared a slide presentation to summarize the proposed changes to the town's false alarm ordinance. And I'm ready for the next slide. Currently, the town has a false alarm ordinance in place that has the following components, but the existing ordinance only applies to commercial properties in town. And staff is proposing that the ordinance be amended to also cover residential properties. And the current requirements that apply to commercial properties are that they need to obtain an alarm permit from the police department. They pay a service charge if there are more than two false alarms within a 6-month period. And the amount of that charge is $175. In addition, property owners with more than 5 false alarms within 1 calendar year are placed on a no response status. This decision is made by the chief of police. It is appealable to the town manager. Once a property has been placed on no response status, if a property owner presents new evidence to police chief that they've taken care of the problem, the police chief can stay that no response decision. And then, however, if there is another false alarm after that stay is put into place, the property will be placed on non-response status once again, and that decision would be not appealable. And so in addition to adding residential properties to the ordinance, next slide, please, we would like to propose some other changes for the town council's considerations. Residential properties would be subject to all of the requirements that were just discussed. They would need to obtain a residential alarm permit. Currently, the town's registration fee is $95, which is payable annually. And in addition, when the police department responds to a false alarm at a location that did not have an alarm permit, there's a penalty imposed of 2 times the annual permit fee, which would be $190. Next slide, please. And while we were taking a look at the existing false alarm ordinance, we came across some other elements that the council might want to consider changing and we're recommending be changed. In section 1450.080, currently there's a requirement that signage be posted that says police alarm, call Los Gatos Monte Sereno Police Department. And really the intent of that section is to say who the company is that installed the alarm and so who people should call if there's maintenance needed. So we're proposing striking the sentence that says signs need to be posted that say police alarm, call Los Gatos Monte Sereno Police Department. And in addition, the existing ordinance says that escalating fines will be imposed, and we're recommending that the town council add a reference to the town's administrative fine and penalty schedule so that people can tell what the fines and penalties are. In addition, we're recommending that language be added to provide staff with the option of using a collection service to pay unpaid charges, and also to explain that the alarm permit application process is online and that therefore alarm permits are virtual permits rather than paper permits. And finally, I wanted to point out that there's a typo in the clean version of the ordinance that's in the council's packet. There's some missing verbiage in 1450.095. The last sentence should say that that notices of the right to an appeal should contain a warning that the filing of an appeal is a necessary prerequisite to any current or future contest that the alarm was not false in either a judicial or administrative proceeding. And so the phrase "in either a judicial or administrative proceeding" is missing from the clean ordinance. And so the intent of that is that people know that they need to submit an appeal before they challenge the police chief's or town manager's decision in court. And then we did receive some questions regarding the effective date of the ordinance. Typically, when the town council introduces the ordinance, as you know, it would return for adoption at the next meeting and then would take effect 30 days after that. In this instance, staff is proposing that the ordinance be drafted to have an effective date of January 1st, 2026. And the purpose of this would be to allow staff to do public outreach regarding the ordinance changes. And staff is considering the following methods of outreach, which would be door hangers, social media, and notices to the alarm companies that operate in the town. And we are available to answer any questions.
Questions, Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Regarding the cost of the permit, is it going to be the same as the commercial permit, or do we have to figure that out as a council when we do our fees, or how are we going to determine the cost of the residential?
Staff's proposal is that the cost of a residential and a commercial permit be the same. And the idea is that it should be cost recovery. It should match the town's expense in providing the service.
Okay, and those don't change depending on commercial versus residential?
Not that I'm aware of, and Captain Tata may have more to add on that.
Nothing to add. That's correct.
Got it. Still have to drive the police car out there. Thanks.
Councilmember Badami and then Councilmember Risto.
Thank you, Mayor. So when we're referring to alarm users, are we making a distinction between somebody that might just have an audible alarm versus somebody that's got a central station alarm that's professionally monitored?
Yes, I'll start, and then Captain Tata can follow up. We're attempting to capture the alarm systems that place calls to the police department, and then the police department needs to respond to the calls. So it would be a professional system.
Okay, so you might have a resident that just has an alarm that's not professionally monitored, and the police are still going to respond because a neighbor might call and say, "I hear this alarm, my neighbor's on vacation," but that's not going to count?
Let me check on how we've defined the terms. So false alarm is defined as activation of a police alarm system to which personnel of the police department respond in circumstances where no police emergency exists. So that is a little bit more broad than I described. That would be any alarm system to which police department personnel respond.
Okay, thank you. I think.
And police alarm system is defined as any mechanical or electric device which is designed or used for the detection or warning of unauthorized entry.
That's helpful.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. I had two questions. One is, with virtual permits, does that mean dispatch would have access to that list? So when they're sending police out, they know whether it's registered or not? Or when would that be detected and how would we deal with that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Clinton Todd, a Support Services Captain for the Police Department. That process is usually handled on the back end. The Police Department traditionally runs a report once a week to determine the false alarms through our dispatch services. Once that list has been identified, we would go ahead and submit that list, and we would be able to identify who the registered users are that have permits and existing permits. We are seeking third-party services for that process currently, so that's something the current vendor will have the ability to look up.
Okay, thank you. So that makes sense, I think, after the response is done to understand whether somebody was registered or not, and they can rectify that situation. What about the no response? If somebody has too many false alarms and they're on the non-response status, then how is that determined?
Thank you. That too is handled by the third-party vendor services. They will get a notification in the mail and or a call follow-up message from the police department notifying them of that response or no response status, at which time that's something that goes before, based on the Muni Code, goes before the chief of police to make a determination, given the circumstances, if they are to be put on a no response status. If they are, they have a certain amount of time to resurrect and correct any issues, mechanical issues, or whatnot that could be fixed and identified, and then that would be monitored throughout that time period.
Okay, but just to follow up, so if someone is on no response and they haven't made the corrections, would dispatch know not to dispatch the police department? Or would the police, those would be flagged?
Yes, correctly. That would be flagged through our computer automated dispatch system.
Okay. I would imagine most people with alarm systems would not want that to happen and they would fix something. And then my final question, which was sort of my first question when I read this, what are typical causes of false alarms? I mean, are they pets? Are they... I don't know what would cause a false alarm, so I'm just curious what types of things are in people's control or out of their control.
Yeah, typically what the police department sees, it's a wide variety of things. I think primarily it's what we consider user error. So it's forgetting to secure a door, a window, and or somebody inputting the improper passcode, whether it's a vendor services or whatnot for the business or for the residents that they don't have the proper passcode at the time, so it triggers the alarm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? I had a question. How does our proposed ordinance compare to neighboring cities? I understand that the primary change we're making is to include residential in this program. Correct? Do we have an idea about how neighboring cities handle this?
Yes. As part of staff's research, when we looked at implementing this and this idea came forward, we looked at other jurisdictions in our surrounding Bay Area in the Santa Clara County. And what we found was there's probably 3 jurisdictions, I think it was, or 2 jurisdictions off the top of my head, City of Campbell, City of Morgan Hill, that do not have any permitting requirements, whether it's commercial or residential. All the other jurisdictions in the Santa Clara County had permitting requirements, annual permitting requirements for both residents and businesses for the permitting costs. And of course, all the fines to go with false alarm billing vary throughout the county.
Okay, so we would be coming more in line with other cities by this proposed ordinance, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I realize I need to do public comment on this. I don't have any cards here. Is there anyone online who would like to speak?
There's no one online.
Okay. I'll close public comment. And so, council members, further questions or a motion to move this forward? Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. I appreciate the report. I appreciate the fact that, I know mistakes can happen, but I think from a cost recovery point of view and not squandering police time, I think the staff report made clear that when the police are responding to a false alarm, they're not able to respond to something else, and that can put other members of the public at risk. I think given that there's opportunities for people to recover if they have too many false alarms, or it helps make them accountable for using public resources. So I would move to introduce an ordinance amending Chapter 14, Licenses and Miscellaneous Business Regulations, Article 5, Police Alarms of the Town Code to require alarm permits for residences and render residential false alarms subject to penalties. Do I need to read the title? And there was one addition in terms of for the challenge before challenging legally, that they would challenge in either judicial or administrative hearing, but I didn't catch which section that goes into.
Yes, I can find that. And because the title of the ordinance is on the agenda, it's not necessary to read the title of the agenda of the item. And the section that I was referring to that's missing the phrase in either a judicial or administrative proceeding at the end is section 14.50.095.
Okay, so with that addition to section 14.50.095.
Councilmember Badami?
Second.
Okay, is there questions or discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. So we have no opposition, so it passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that report. And so now we move to item number 9.
Thank you. So this item has to do with the opportunity to participate in an opioid settlement agreement with Purdue Pharma. The background is that Purdue Pharmaceuticals has declared bankruptcy, and so as part of the settlement of the bankruptcy case, the company has been asked to make payments to states, every state in the nation actually. And so California is eligible to receive a payout. The amount of the payout that goes to the state of California and any other state will be dependent upon the number of jurisdictions that elect to participate. And so the town of Los Gatos has been asked if it wishes to participate. And if it does choose to participate, we anticipate, although it's not certain, we anticipate that the amount of the payments would be similar to previous settlements with other pharmaceutical companies. And that amount has been approximately $128,000 over the past 5 years, and the payments come in on a rolling basis somewhat sporadically. So the town, if the town council is interested in participating, the town council has 2 decisions. The town could either opt to keep the settlement funds for the town's use, or the town could opt to assign its right to the funds to the county of Santa Clara. And the town's use of the funds is limited to activities that address the opioid crisis. And so there's a very specific list of activities that the funds can be used for. And then there are also reporting requirements. So there would need to be staff time spent reporting on how the funds were used. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions? Okay, let's go to any questions from the public. I don't have any cards. Does anyone online wish to speak on item number 9?
There's no one online.
Okay, close public comment. And so, Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. I actually do have a question under discussion on the town report where it talks about we can alternatively opt to give our share to County of Santa Clara. One of the questions I have is, if we do take this money on behalf of the town, however, we need cooperation with the county, or there are services that we think the county could provide to our residents after we've received the money, are we able to give some of the money to the county at that point if there were something we needed to pay for through the county, or is it we have to make the decision up front and it's all town or it's all county?
I didn't see a restriction with the town partnering with the county or other nonprofits to perform the services that are eligible. However, I can dig deeper to see if we're restricted that we need to provide it ourselves.
Okay, I guess because I was thinking, to me, I think we should take this money. I think there's places to spend it. There's work to be done in the community. But if it's an all or nothing, like, I mean, if it, I wouldn't want to just hand it straight over to the county up front, because I feel like it's really important for us to look at what programs we can be funding and partnering with the schools.
I think the balance, when you look at, some of the original settlements that I was a part of, where you had 600 pages of what every jurisdiction was going to receive, and there were small dollar amounts, jurisdictions tended to opt out to avoid the administrative reporting requirements because of the low dollar amount, because they didn't normally have a social service or other type of program that dealt with these type of community impacts, because they typically were nonprofit or county type of priorities. Okay. However, we're currently at about $128,000, so I would imagine we can find an opportunity, most likely in a partnership basis, to figure out what's the best option for our community and what's the best organization that can deliver that service for us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Yeah, so I think this is, obviously a response to a horrible epidemic. But I agree with what Councilman Baristo said. I think this is, I think this is a good opportunity. I think we should opt in. I think we should keep the funds in the town of Los Gatos. And I have some thoughts on I'll share a little bit about what I think we could do, because, from my understanding, to answer this question, I believe most cities that have opted in Santa Clara County have worked with the county to provide some of these services. So I don't think it's an all or nothing. I think you can spend the money. I know for a fact that the city of San Jose has spent opioid settlement funding on the Trust program, which is a county-run program through a nonprofit called Momentum for Health. I think there's, with, let's call it maybe $150,000 or so if we accept this money. I think there's a lot of really great tangible projects that we could do for the community. And I think, I like the idea of education with the schools. I think that's an important project, but I will say, I've looked into this a bit, and my understanding is that the rates of opioid use, especially among minors, is going down, which is a good thing. And so these education programs are working, getting Narcan out into the community is working. One of the things that I think could be really good for Los Gatos is using this money to support a program like Trust or PERT. Trust is the Trusted Response Urgent Support Team, run by Momentum for Health with the county, and PERT is the Psychiatric Emergency Response Team. Both of those programs address behavioral health and substance use issues, including opioid use, and have been by other cities approved uses for this money. Trust is a non-law enforcement crisis team, while PERT combines the resources and experience of both personnel from law enforcement with social service providers to address crisis situations. PERT is administered by the county, and actually Los Gatos, my understanding is that Los Gatos is in this program right now with other West Valley cities, but that funding is being cut. So the county zeroed out funding for PERT in this last budget. And then West Valley towns and cities do not currently have a dedicated Trust team, but we do, benefit from it. Trust goes to the whole county, but we don't have somebody here. Long story long, due to this challenging budget year, there's no money for these programs for Los Gatos right now, but other cities like Palo Alto and Santa Clara are currently working on arrangements with the county to preserve PERT in their cities. My understanding is with this money. and so with their opioid settlement money. And so I'm really interested in seeing if we could do something similar, either for PERT or trust, because I think that would be a really tangible benefit for people in our community. This is not at all a decision we have to make tonight. It sounds like the only decisions we have to make is whether or not to opt in and whether or not the money should stay in Los Gatos. But all to say, I think that rather than doing more education programming or trying to purchase more Narcan, I think that using the money to expand crisis response for residents in the town of Los Gatos would be a really big win for people in our community. So that would be my thought on where to go with this.
Okay. Councilmember Rennie?
So I guess the question for staff, I'm a little worried about we accept this and then find those programs are not eligible. I mean, PERT is a mental health program, right? Some mental health issues is due to, opioids. But how do we know those, given this money, those are acceptable uses of it? Has staff explored this at all? And, can we break this into right now? Yes, we say we accept the money, and then we figure out, well, maybe it becomes too difficult for us to administer it. We need to hire some people to do it, because it isn't as simple as just give it to PERT. Then we can give all the money to the county some other way. So I'm just a little worried about whether we understand what we're walking into.
So I've read, all the documents associated with this, and I read it to permit the town to contract with a third-party provider. However, the uses are limited, and so I can, give an example of what the permitted uses are, if you'll bear with.
And it really comes down to, is PERT a permitted use if it is sort of multiple things? I mean, it's not specifically targeting stopping drug use, for example.
Yeah, and then the other thing is there is like a contact person that's, helps with the settlement, and so the town can call them in advance to confirm what's an allowable use and what's not. And so I need to find my list of allowable uses, and I know it includes the purchase of Narcan. I suspect that mental services would probably not be covered, but I would want to confirm that with the settlement administrator.
Yeah, so there is a list in the report. But I don't think we're trying to pick a particular use of this funds tonight, correct? We're just trying to decide whether we apply for this.
That's correct.
Okay, so I do have a public comment. It appears that we did public comment, but it appears someone was on Zoom and wasn't able to get through, and so they came down here. So I will open public comment before we start deliberating and making a motion. Ms. Yamamoto.
Hi, thank you. I had a hard time hearing you guys on Zoom, so I rushed down here. Luckily, I live close. I'm Karen Yamamoto. I had another comment for the other one, but I can talk to you guys later about it. For this one, we have a lot of kids who have drug addiction, and opioids and other drugs are affecting our town, not only in our high school, but in our middle school. And I think the younger we can educate, the sooner we can save them. We've had numerous amount of kids over the years try to overdose in our schools. And I don't know how much of that is public knowledge, but working in our school system, it's devastating. Especially since I know 3 children who actually overdosed in the bathroom. So it is important. It was in the high school, not in the middle school or elementary, but it's important for us to have resources available to help these kids. And not only that, but if it's happening with our kids, how much of it is affecting our senior citizens? I know my neighbor, she might have died of cancer, but she was addicted to drugs, addicted to painkillers. If she had the resources, maybe she wouldn't have died so early. Maybe, possibly, this could have helped her. So just don't turn down these funds right away, but really do your homework on them, because this could actually be life-saving for our town. Thank you.
Thank you. I will close public comment and go back to questions or deliberation on this. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. So I would be interested in having us this evening opt in and keep the money in Los Gatos, and then in the meantime have staff reach out to our contacts with the opioid settlement fund. And what the only thing I'll say is that there's been a distinction now made in state law about mental health versus behavioral health, and both trust and PERT are behavioral health specifically, which means they deal with substance use. And so I would think, and I know other cities have tried to use this funding in that way. I'd be curious to know from your research if that holds true or not. But I would like to see us try to use this funding. Not, again, education and naloxone are important, but I do think that meeting the actual sort of impacts of the opioid epidemic might be a more meaningful way for us to spend this money.
Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. We don't have a huge unhoused population at the moment in Los Gatos, but certainly substance abuse is an issue there. And so I would also be curious as if we accept this money, what kind of programs we can contract with to either get assistance or transitional housing or something for unhoused residents that are abusing substances. And I would think that would fit in as a vulnerable population.
Potentially, and I did find reference to connecting at-risk youth to behavioral health services and support as part of the diversion activities that are eligible. Since this total dollar amount is greater than $100,000, any contract we enter into, any service would have to come back to the council. So at least you'll get to see what are we really looking at in terms of where the funding would go and what type of service.
Councilmember Badami.
I think we're ready for a motion, so I'll try one. I move to authorize the town manager to execute in substantially the form attached the state subdivision agreement required for participation in the opioid settlement with Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family, and to take any necessary steps and sign any other required agreements. And I'm assuming that this motion that I made includes the town accepting the settlement money, or do I have to make a separate statement?
It's included with entering into the settlement agreement.
That's my motion.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
I'll second, and just include the friendly direction that this come back to the council at some point, perhaps in the next 6 months or so, to discuss what to do with the money if the maker of the motion is okay with that.
To the town manager, would that be within our purview to do that?
Let us take a look first at the eligible uses and how it would fit into the overall programming and then the administrative burden, and then we can come back with what we think is the best course of action.
All right. I would rather wait until we get further direction.
That's fine. Yeah. Just asking for an update. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So I'll be supporting the motion. I just wanted to clarify that, this money is for law enforcement activities, and they are outlined on page 91 of our staff report. So some of the things that have been mentioned in education for children are not on that list, but there are some, like diversion from the criminal justice system, that might fall into some of the treatment activities. So I just suggest that if something comes back, that we focus on that list. That's part of the allowable law enforcement activities. So just a comment. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. So passes unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I would just want to clarify, because I know individual council members talk about what their desires are. The direction from council is to accept the funding, and that staff will determine the best course of action for what to bring forward. The allowable uses are far broader than law enforcement. There's law enforcement acceptable, law enforcement ineligible, and then there's other type of programming that do not involve law enforcement. So I just want to make sure the expectation isn't more limited, because we're already going to have some challenges trying to find the right service that doesn't become administratively burdensome to administer.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so that closes our agenda items.
Mr. Mayor, one question. On item number 8, I had mentioned in the staff report that staff was recommending that the effective date of the changes to the alarm system ordinance be January 1st, 2026, and I just wanted to confirm that the council was comfortable with that effective date.
Do we need another motion?
It'd be great if someone could make a motion to say, and the fire alarm ordinance or the false alarm ordinance will have an effective date of January 1st, 2026.
Okay, Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. Apparently, it won't be an amendment to my motion because we're done with that. So I move to make the effective date for the new fire alarm ordinance be January 1st, 2026.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
I'll second.
Okay.
Although I think it's not a fire alarm, right? It's a
police alarm. Yeah,
Police
no,
alarm.
sorry.
I misspoke. False alarm.
I had fire on my head.
Okay. All right. I don't think I need to open public on it. This is just an item that we already had public comment on. So, so with that, I'll call question. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay. So with that, we finish our regular order, and we now move to council matters. And so I think I would like to start at this end tonight. Councilmember Badami.
Thank you. On August 20th, I participated in the press conference with Congressman Sam Liccardo regarding Wildfire Resilience Partnership, along with some of my fellow council members. And on August 26th, I participated in a meeting of the Council Policy Committee regarding the Code of Conduct. And I've had various conversations with constituents regarding potential development in town.
Thank you. Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. Yeah, I also attended the wildfire preparation press conference with Congressmember Sam Liccardo, fellow council members, the mayor of Saratoga, and other agencies for the announcement of the Wildfire Resilience Partnership, a regional collaboration directed toward wildfire defense. And great turnout, a lot of coverage, and really a recognition of a lot of work that's gone on in the last couple of years with different groups coming together and kind of pulling everything together to make sure we break down silos, we don't have gaps, and it feels like a really strong program. And with the support of federal funding, this can really make a difference. I know our mayor's made this a high priority, and you probably have more to say about it. And then the other thing is I've been working with the vice mayor to help put together ways the town, Safe Routes to School, and bike shops can work together to increase safety for e-bike riders and reduce the use of illegal e-motorcycles. So more to come on that, and the vice mayor may have more to say about it, but we've got 3 bike shops in town who do not sell illegal e-motorcycles. They only sell legal e-bikes, and they are ready and willing to assist with this initiative to help educate parents of what is street legal, what is safe, and even to help offer some safety classes. But we have a multi-pronged approach to try and wrangle this issue about which I hear on a daily basis. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Along with the press conference and some other things, I attended the Campbell State of the City from Mayor Sergio Lopez. Campbell is just an excellent neighbor. They're doing such good work. I'm super impressed with everything they're doing over there. They clearly have a great team. I spoke with the Los Gatos Scout Troop 2. Some great local scouts have been there for 107 years. Pretty incredible. And I ran and participated in the Rotary Great Race. My next door neighbor got first place, which was pretty cool. Ran like a 5:35 mile for 4 miles in a row. Pretty impressive. I was not. I was closer to 30th. But I also want to provide a brief update and request on the topic of e-bikes and e-motorcycles. So over the past few months, I've had dozens of residents reach out and express concerns about bad and often illegal behavior happening on e-bikes and illegal e-motorcycles in Los Gatos. And so after holding a listening session, collecting over 50 form responses from residents sharing concerns, and learning about a recent juvenile e-bike accident, I think the town council is now in a place where we should have a discussion and take action on this topic. So Councilmember Risto and I have jointly developed a proposal focused on 4 key things: education, registration, legislation, and enforcement that we would like to discuss with the full town council at a future meeting. We are looking for the opportunity to discuss this item at a public meeting and would like the chance to provide staff direction on how to proceed. This discussion would align with our strategic priority to implement transportation demand management and traffic calming efforts to mitigate traffic congestion where possible, focusing on the piece of the strategic priority, ensuring safety for all users, and making bicycle and pedestrian improvements. Thank you for your consideration of this request.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Risto made me aware of this a little while ago, so I've got it tentatively into the schedule for this year. I'll work with the town manager on when's the appropriate time to bring that forward. So
thank you.
Yeah. Councilmember Rennie.
Thank you, Mayor. Since our last council meeting, starting with today, I met with the North 40 Phase 2 developer and got an update on their position of where the CEQA is on that. Also their position on guaranteeing the affordable units. We're supposed to share new things that we've learned. What I learned, it doesn't sound like anybody else has met with them yet, is they do not believe that the 60-unit staff is recommending not be built beyond until the affordable building is not financially doable. That's what I learned from them today. I also attended the Silicon Valley Clean Energy Risk Oversight Committee meeting. Since that's a confidential meeting, I have nothing to share from that. The Valley Water Advisory meeting was mostly a tour. I think we did a consent calendar, and then we did a tour of Anderson Dam where we went out and looked at the dam. As an engineer, I found it very interesting how they're going to retrofit a dam that's in place kind of thing, and a dam where a lot of water comes down that Guadalupe river that goes through the dam. So they actually have it planned over 3 years where they take down a third of the dam, and then they need to make piles of the material to reuse. But the piles are going to go where there's still some water in the lake. So they have to build a tunnel that they can get all the water out of the lake from. So there's whole steps of process they had to go through. So I found that very interesting tour. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. I know a number of council members have mentioned some of the things. Just hit on 3 things with Congressman Liccardo. There was the wildfire press conference, which was very well attended and also had some real innovative technology, both in the sensors and in some technology for remote controlled bulldozers that could clear brush, but also could be deployed during an actual wildfire, and to see a demo of that. I also attended a briefing that he gave on federal funding on the 22nd. And then I participated in the wildfire resilience meeting where he had called really all of the people associated with fire from Santa Clara County, CAL FIRE, the various fire districts to, it was somewhat of a wish list brainstorming session, recognizing that federal funding was limited. There were still ideas, some of which maybe didn't require much federal funding, but could require federal support that came forward in that session. So I look forward to participating in that resilience group meeting that I think they're going to be convening monthly. On the 21st, I met with the Los Gatos Thrives Board of Directors who laid out their plans for fundraising, which is their big focus right now. On the 24th, I attended Music in the Park, which was the final concert, and it was a very cool Allman Brothers tribute band, and it brought me back to the 70s. I really enjoyed it, and so did many people. It was really well attended, and everyone had fun. I participated in the Council Policy Committee meeting, as Councilman Member Badami said, but then also I participated in the West Valley Manager and Mayor's meeting, which included Supervisor Abe Koga, learned about some of the challenges of the county, but also learned about some potential ways to work with the county on social services. I participated in a Silicon Valley Back to School Night community resources sponsored by Jewish Silicon Valley with some ideas about combating anti-Semitism. And I guess that was pretty much it. So, and I taught the ham-cram exam on Saturday at the local hospital, and we had an amazing pass rate and have a number of new amateur radio operators that'll help our emergency capability in town, and that program is going strong. So in collaboration with El Camino. Okay, so that's it. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You highlighted the Wildfire Resiliency Partnership that occurred last Friday, where the Mayor, Emergency Manager, and I joined representatives from multiple agencies, including the City of Saratoga and Los Altos, with Congressman Liccardo. The outcome of the entire partnership is to identify several regional initiatives which we can play a substantial role in accelerating progress and implementation across all our jurisdictions and not just one in particular. My last update is that the Caltrans has notified us that on Monday and Tuesday, September 8th and 9th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., between Redwood Estates to Summit Road, that they will be closing the number 2 lanes of Highway 17 for roadside vegetation control, apropos, given that we've been doing a lot of wildfire planning and response. The number 2 lane is, the fast lane's number 1, the next lane over is number 2. Those will be the lanes the inside travel lanes will be closed. So plan accordingly. With that, I'll return it to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Town Attorney.
Thank you. I wanted to report that the council met in closed session earlier this evening to discuss a workers' compensation claim submitted by Mr. Esgar. The meeting was held pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D1, and at this time, there's no reportable action.
Okay, thank you. And then just for folks who've been bearing with us, there are some things we're going to be covering in the future. You heard the term wildfire come up a number of times tonight, and so we're really looking forward to an in-depth agenda item on our wildfire preparations, led by our emergency manager and our town manager in the future. And so we have quite a bit to do the rest of this year, including a number of land use applications. that will be coming forward that will take quite a bit of time, but we will manage to get some other things done related to our strategic priorities as well. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting and say thank you for bearing with us.